and had someone held these conversations with us as a teen, or provided resources for our parents and the adults in our lives to help us better transition, it would have made a big difference. So
Welcome to the Inner Creator Conversations House, talking about the teen years. My name is Anjulique, also known as Anjulique the Artist. I am an expressionist artist, spiritual life coach, and youth mental wellness advocate. And this room is co moderated by my good friend Leah Abraham, who is a childhood trauma specialist, specifically in the area of sexual childhood trauma. And I'm so grateful that she is sharing this space with me. We are here to have conversations to help uh, elevate the mindset of young people and the people who work with young people. Again, this is a teen space, but if you have preteens or if you have 18 or 19-year-olds, I feel like this could also be a really good opportunity to learn in this space. Each week we'll go over different topics that I believe that Leah believes would be really impactful in helping to build those relationships. And yeah, I just wanted to give a little introduction of myself and the room so that while you're listening to the replay, you have an understanding of what's going forward with this conversation. And Leah, did you want to introduce yourself real fast?
absolutely. So as Angelique said, I'm Leah Abraham, and I am a childhood trauma expert. I work with adults who are ready to begin healing their childhood trauma and seeing their addictions with new perspective. I have a 5-step healing process that I guide my clients through to help them gain clarity and understanding around their past, around their current struggles, and that clarity on where they're heading, their next right steps. So, this topic about the teen years is very dear to me because I think it's so imperative that we focus on the young people. You know, they're at this very transitional state of their life, going from a child to an adult. So these teen years are detrimental to completing the development of their brains, to completing the healthy development of their emotional intelligence and their ability to navigate different struggles that come with life in general, and especially as you're making that transition from child to adult. So I think if we can speak to the teens and help them better understand what they're going through, set them up for success in learning emotional intelligence and bodily autonomy and staying connected to their authentic self and their true expression, their creative expression, then we're setting them up to win, and they are our future. You know, we hear a lot of people say that, but they are the next generation. So it's important that we work together and that we provide for them safe spaces to process the things they're going through and ask questions and have healthy resources that they can rely on and look to. So I'm happy that we're creating this space and having these conversations, and yeah, I know it will be very, very beneficial for those who find it. So thanks for having me, Angelique, and happy to be here.
Absolutely. Definitely my pleasure as well. And before we get going into the conversation, because I want to respect your time while we're allowing people to get pinged, um, I wanted to mention the safe space, the importance of that safe space, and that this is a safe space conversation. And if you're looking for a way to support teens outside of the clubhouse space, I also offer a youth workshop called Time for Teens. It's about self talk and setting boundaries. And we go over how we can tap into our mind and tap into our energy and create a better relationship with them so that we can have a better relationship with ourselves. And this process works for all people, but specifically, it is called Time for Teens because, as Leah mentioned, they are the future. They are the next generation of politicians, the next generation of teachers, the next generation of um, leaders in the world, CEOs, coaches, life coaches, therapists. They are the next generation of contributors to society. And I feel like that folds really well into this subject of supporting authenticity that we kind of came up with last week. I'm not sure who exactly sparked it. I believe it was Mick, um, but I can't remember exactly who. And if you remember, Leah, if you kept your notes a little tighter and you remember who came up with that, feel free to tap in and just be like, "Hey, it was so and so." But
Yeah, Angelique, I
yes,
was gonna say I think it was like a thread throughout the conversation that we had because, in when we held this conversation in the trauma drama house, we talked about, trauma, it kind of disconnects us from our true authentic self. And so that was kind of like a thread throughout our entire conversation, the importance of keeping that authenticity, staying connected to who you are, and supporting that for our children as they grow, rather than looking outside of themselves for that approval and that acceptance, already having it within, and that way, you're more inclined to express yourself creatively from that true authentic space. So yeah, we can give credit to everybody that was in that room in that conversation last week, and that's why we're having this conversation today. The first topic in the inner creator conversations on the teen years is supporting authenticity, and I think that's very powerful. I wanted, if it's okay, Angelique, I just wanted to share something that happened this weekend. Are you cool with that?
absolutely, go for it.
Awesome. So this weekend we went. My son had his kickoff for the football season. This is his senior year, and so his first game was in a town that's about 3 hours away from us. And so all of the parents traveled down, and we all stayed in a hotel. And then the day after the game, which they won, by the way. The day after the game on Saturday, we all went to the water park. And so I really got to spend a lot of time with the different families, the moms. My son, he goes to a school that is very far away from my house because it's in his dad's district and they have a really good football program. So the last couple of years, I hadn't been very involved because the school is so far, and I have the other children that have all of their activities and their school here on this side of town. So I really wasn't participating much the last couple of years on the team. I would just go to the games, but this time I really got to interact with the moms and spend some time with the different families. And there was like a theme when I would talk to each of the moms. They would tell me about my son, how he is very respectful, and every time, they speak to him or they say hello or they ask him a question, that he always like looks them in the eye and he'll respond and he'll communicate with them. And that felt really good for me as a mom to hear that, because that's something that's important to me, that if someone is speaking to you, that you recognize them, you let them know that you've heard them, and you respond to them, and so that felt really good, that my son, he portrays that aspect in his personality. And another thing that I heard from the moms is that my son is very kind to their sons. And, one mom was saying this is her son's first year on the varsity team, and that Aiden really has taken him under his wing, and that he's, he tries to make them feel included and part of the team. And that made me feel really good. And I wanted to share that because that, when you speak to teens, sometimes they can't look you in the eye, or they, like mumble under their breath, or they give a short answer. And I've recognized that. And I think that has a lot to do with them being connected to their true authentic self. When we're disconnected from self, or we don't feel so comfortable in our own skin, it's hard to make that eye contact with another person. It's hard to speak up and to engage in conversation when you're not connected to yourself, when you don't have that confidence in yourself. And so that got me thinking, just them giving me this feedback about my son. It felt really good to receive that as a mother, and then and then to know that about my son, that he's in this position where he's helping other people feel comfortable with themselves. And so that must mean, to some degree, that he's comfortable in his own skin, and he's confident in who he is. And I felt really good about that, so I wanted to share that today. But the part of that I wanted, of that share, that I wanted to focus on, is the inability sometimes for teens to engage in those one-on-one conversations, or to speak from their authentic self-expression. And I think, based on the information that the moms were telling me, and some of the interactions that I've had with the other students, I do see that sometimes it's hard for teens to engage in that conversation. And so I wanted to ask your opinion in that. Do you feel the same, that it's, when we lack that connection to self, we lack that confidence to engage authentically in conversation with others? I just want to hear your thoughts on that, Angelique. Thank you.
That's a wonderful share. Thank you, Leah. And also, clap snaps to you for raising such a confident, kind young dude. You feel me? Because we need more men in the world who are like that, who are willing to um, be comfortable in those conversations, who are willing to hold space for other young men. You feel me? Last week we talked about the uh, competition that tends to arise with adults and children. And tying that in with this conversation, I feel like when someone is confident in themselves, when they are authentic with themselves, they're more open to speaking to anyone, especially somebody who is younger than them. They're definitely open to extending their arms to invite that person in and show them a way. So I really want to congratulate you on raising such an awesome young guy. But yeah, I definitely think that's a huge significant. I can't think of the proper words. I'm gonna just change it. I really think that's a huge sign of a person who is authentic, who is confident, being able to have eye contact in a conversation, being able to um, just being open to speaking clearly, and being comfortable when engaging in conversations, right? I think I spoke on this last week as well. When a young person is engaging with an adult, especially, there is this idea that I'm the child, I'm being seen a certain way, and I'm expected to just kind of give myself over to this older person, just respond how they want me to respond or whatever. But when we have young people who are comfortable in their skin, who are supported by the adults in their life to be authentic and to be confident, they are able to hold conversations. And then people say, "Oh, wow, this young person is so articulate and so comfortable and so confident." Well, that's because they're allowed to be them, their authentic self. They're allowed to have those conversations with adults, and it creates a certain level of maturity that I have seen in young people, um, that adults admire, because a lot of adults don't have that same confidence. And I thought about this recently, how there's that saying that, high school never ends, right? And people kind of carry that high school personality with them into their adult lives. And so if they were like kind of um, the shy, reserved person in high school, they're probably going to be shy and reserved in college or in the real world. You feel me? If they were like the jockey person and they were like kind of rude, you feel me? They were like, they're going to be that way in college and they're going to be that way in the real world. It really carries over. And um, when you're able to plant that seed of authenticity, it carries over as well. And as I was saying, that is going to create political leaders, teachers, coaches, business leaders who have a greater sense of confidence and can move with a more authentic sense of authority and create better spaces for the people who are under them or working with them or whatever you have it. And there isn't that same high school like tier system going on in the corporate world, in the political world, in the educational world. So I definitely think that that is a huge sign when a child is able to have a conversation with an adult um, in the eye, with confidence, using their full voice. I've definitely been around plenty of young people who you feel like who I feel like there's more that they want to say or more that they want to express, but they just don't have that sense that it matters. You feel me? They don't feel like what they have to say matters, or they don't think their voice should be heard. So they they like mumble, or they'll cut their answers short, or they won't look you in the eye. And I feel like my heart goes out to them, and I do my best to kind of create that space. And when they see that you're open, they do tend to open up more. But if it's just like a quick interaction, you don't really get to make that same kind of impact. But you can definitely tell when a young person doesn't feel confident in expressing themselves. And I think that does tie to the authenticity piece. Well, is there anything else you would like to add on to that, Leah?
Yeah, Angelique, that's interesting how you said high school never ends, and it's kind of like you always maintain that persona that you had in high school. Um, so I think there's a lot of truth to that, but I think also like it opens up for the question: is that who you are in high school, who you're expressing yourself in high school? Is that your authentic self, or is that your conditioned self, your masked self? And because children learn so early on to wear masks or to show up in a certain light or to play a specific role, so I think that when this conversation is geared towards teens, and if we can help teens connect to their true authentic self and remove those masks and break down the conditioning of who they're expected to show up as, or who they think they need to show up as to be accepted, if we can remove those barriers and encourage the authentic expression, that's going to benefit them, because that's going to alter, if that's true, that kind of who we show up as in high school is who we show up as in life. If that's true, then if we can help them connect to their authentic self in these teen years, then that's going to serve them for the rest of their life. Because when we don't, and we've learned to wear these masks and show up as our conditioned self, it's like that's how we go through life, and so we stay disconnected from our authentic self for all our lives, perhaps, until maybe we get onto the healing journey and start processing trauma and breaking down those conditioned layers and removing the masks and all of that. But that's it's a big process as an adult. It's hard to unlearn all of those things. So the earlier on that we can begin implementing the healing and the connection to the authenticity, the better, because then you're connected to that persona, that personality that you want to be, that's going to be most beneficial for you as you move out into the world. So I just wanted to talk again about that eye contact thing, because even myself as an adult, like, I can recognize when I'm in a dark space, when I have a hard time making that eye contact with people. Because normally, if I'm, just my regular self or whatever, I want to have those engagements with the cashier at the store, or whoever I'm dealing with at the children's school, or meeting somebody new for the first time. I like that engagement. I think it's important to let that person know that I'm here, present in this conversation. I see you, I'm listening, and I hope you're doing the same for me. I see myself, and what I have to say is important, and so I want to be here with you and have that conversation. But when I'm not in a good space, it's hard for me to make even that eye contact. It's like I want to just move on quickly through the interaction, and that way I can get away from the that conversation, or the expected conversation from another person. So it's like I just keep my head down, do what I have to do, and then walk out of the store, or wherever I'm at. So that's like a huge indicator for myself that I'm in a dark space, if I can't make that eye contact. So I think you said something really powerful there when you talked about children not thinking that that what they have to say is important or going to be valued. And I think that happens very early on, when a child is not listened to in their own home, or when what they've said is dismissed. They learn that what I have to say, nobody cares, or nobody wants to hear it. And so it's hard for them to then express themselves, especially to adults, when they're in those teen years. It's like it feels unsafe. Perhaps it's not a safe territory to speak openly or authentically. And so I think that's one of the things that I would look at, if a teen is having difficulty expressing themselves. Well, where did that come from? And I that's the work I do. I always look back at the childhood trauma and those first 7 years of life, and what we learned about ourselves in that time frame. But if we learned that what we have to say is always going to be dismissed, or nobody really cares, or they're going to silence me, it's going to be very hard to speak up as a teen, and as an adult. So again, as I've mentioned a couple of times in this conversation, I think it's important that we're focusing on teens, because if we can reverse some of these false core beliefs that teens have carried from their childhood, if we can reverse them in the teen years, that's so beneficial to that individual child, that individual teen, and also to society. If we can help teens connect to their voice, use their voice, and really feel and know that what I have to contribute, what I have to say is valuable, is going to be important for somebody, and if anything, it's important for me to express myself, period. For me to say what's going on in my head, to share my thoughts, to share my opinion, to contribute to the conversation in whatever way. And that's enough, for the teen to really believe that what they have to say is needed and necessary, and should be expressed. So if we can help teens gain that confidence in themselves, and connect to their voice and understand why it's so important, that's going to be beneficial to society, to that individual, and to society as a whole. So yeah. Hey, Mick. Hey, Melissa. Hey, Darren. It's good to see you guys. Thanks for joining us for the conversation.
Awesome. Yes. Welcome everybody that hopped into the room. And I want to tap on what Leah said about making this valuable for teens. So I do want to give a few quick little tips if you are a teen and you're listening to this, or if maybe like Leah and myself, I'm included in this, you have had trouble making eye contact with people, or you've had that trouble with wearing a mask. There's two things that came up for me, and I'll share these and then I'll pass it over to Mick for his share. So, the first thing that I want to call to your attention if you're listening this um, is notice when you're shrinking. Notice when you have the desire to do something, say something, express yourself with, clothes or nails or makeup or hair or whatever. Um, and you decide, I'm not going to do that because so and so would say, or such and such would look at me, or whatever. Be aware of those times and those moments when you're shrinking, because that is slowly unraveling your authenticity. And that's something that I had to learn as an adult. And like Leah said, it's tougher to unlearn it once you're grown. So if you're a young person listening to this right now, um, raise your awareness of when you're shrinking. And on the opposite side of that coin, notice when you're being celebrated. Notice when people are encouraging you and holding space for you and saying, "Oh, yeah, I like that," or "I'm glad that you're expressing yourself," or "I hear you, I see you, I feel you," because those are also important spaces and people and opportunities for you to navigate towards. Because a lot of times we can feel like, oh, I'm obligated to family or friends that I've known since middle school, or this certain teacher or coach, but they make me feel like I'm shrinking. Meanwhile, this kid that I met at chess club, we actually really get along. We have really great conversations, and I can talk to them about all sorts of things. Spend more time with that person who allows you to fully express yourself. As a young person, it can be um, very challenging to separate yourself from people that you're kind of obligated to be around at this time because you're still a child. But definitely spend more time connecting with those people that make you that support you, I should say, that support you in being authentic and expressing authentically. And the second thing that I want to challenge you with is trying out eye contact. This is something that I learned in my 20s again. Because it wasn't something I was very comfortable with in my younger years, because I was somebody who was told that you're the child, kind of know your place deal. Um, but when I went to massage therapy school, we were taught how to create rapport with our clients very quickly, because you meet them in the lobby and then they're upstairs and they're naked and you're, massaging their body. So you have to have a sense of comfortability with them. And one of my teachers, Cruz, shout out, challenged us to go out into the world and just make eye contact with people, and just like smile or give a nod or just make eye contact with people to raise your ability to hold eye contact and to build your confidence with interacting with people. We don't realize how often we look away from people, whether it's like Leah said, the person at the grocery store checkout, or somebody we're passing in the mall, or our own family members, our own friends, the adults at the pool party. You feel me? Uh, Eye contact is so powerful. And when you build that muscle, it gives you such a confidence. And you start to notice how many people in the world, including adults, do not have that same confidence, because you'll look at them in the eye and they'll be like, "Oh," they'll kind of give you that like look away, like, "Why are you looking at me?" kind of vibe. Um, so I challenge you, young people, to try out the eye contact, and it will build your confidence and it will build your sense of sense of self and a sense of the world, and understanding like, hey, I'm not the only one out here in the world who feels kind of shy. Like, a lot of people do, and it's a muscle that I can build by trying out this eye contact. So thank you for bringing that up again, Leah.
Yeah, absolutely, Angelique. And I would extend that to all of us as well. That's something that anybody can practice. Absolutely, the young teens. Absolutely, if you can begin this practice now as a young teen, it's going to benefit you throughout your life. But even us here, that's something that we can practice. And I'm sure you've heard they say the eyes are the gateway to the soul. And I really believe that when you look at somebody in the eyes, you're looking at them on the soul level. You're not looking at, what their hair looks like or what kind of shoes they're wearing. You're actually seeing them soul to soul when you're looking in their eyes. And I think it does give us that sort of like confidence if we're connected to our own soul, that gives us that confidence and that power to be able to want that connection with other people. So practicing that, looking in the eyes as a connection practice, a connection to the soul of another person. So it's a beautiful practice. It's a beautiful practice. And like you said, people respond to that when a teen looks you in the eye as an adult and answers your question. That adult responds to that because they see you on the soul level. They see you seeing them on the soul level, and there's something about that connection that demands respect for self and for the other person. So I love that challenge. And I'm going to consciously do that all day today. Make that eye contact with people that I'm walking by or engaging with. And yeah, it is a muscle that we can practice, that confidence in being our soul self and seeing others for their soul self. So yeah, Mick, welcome to the stage. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll pass the mic over to you for anything you want to add.
Oh, well, thank
Yes, Meg. Just to touch on that latter point that you were talking about, you can't change people, period. It has to be a choice. And especially in those teen years, I've heard it said that that's when we are really solidifying those core beliefs and making them make sense in our worlds, because we learned all of this stuff up until the age 7, and now we have a little more breathing room to be out in society in the world, and we've learned these things. Now we want to be like, this is right, and this is what I know, and this is how I'm going to act, and this is how I'm going to be. So I think it's so important that you mention that, because we can invite them to take a look, invite them to awareness, invite them to challenge, but not challenge them directly. I think that was a really important point that you brought up and that Leah initiated, um, because when we think about people in the teen years, unless they're like um, incredibly shy or timid, they tend to be kind of rebellious and challenging things, because it is that time to kind of test things out. Like Leah said, we have created this space to give them the opportunity to transition and try on adulthood, instead of just pushing them directly into it, the world. So there is that kind of, I'm trying things out. And in that same way, where it's, I'm trying out what I already know, there's also new things that we can share with them and invite them into, like challenging what they think is correct, or challenging them to see things from a different perspective, you know? So I loved everything that was shared today. I feel like this was a really powerful conversation. Leah said that, reset the room, but I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick wrap up. And in case you're listening to this on another platform, I definitely invite you to come on over to Clubhouse and listen to it live. We would love to hear your contribution, whether it's in the comments or if you decide to be bold and come up on stage. We would appreciate what you have to share, because this is a community conversation. And next week, we're going to be here at the same time, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, and you can figure out your coasts based on that. And before I officially close things out, Leah, is there anything you'd like to share?
No, I just really appreciate it, Angelique. I love what we're doing here. This is Angelique's house, the Inner Creator Conversations house. If you're not a member yet, please join the house. This is where these conversations will be held. Mondays, like Angelique said, 11 o'clock Mountain Time. That's 1 p.m. Eastern Standard, and then around the world. So this is a global platform. So please join us. We're going to be consistent in holding space for these conversations. And then, like Angelique said, she'll be sharing clips from the Clubhouse conversation on different social media platforms, but this is where it's going to be live. So if you want to be a part of the conversation, or if you want to suggest a topic, a subtopic of conversation for a specific Monday, let us know. This is the beginning stages of this room, or of this conversation that's going to be held weekly. So please give us your feedback and continue to join us. Tell people about the room, share it out. It's going to be on replay, so you can share it out, you can revisit it, you can cut those clips, share them to different platforms. But we really think this is important conversations that need to be had because of that transition period from childhood to adulthood. It's that a teen's mind is still so elastic, and they can learn so much, and they can change so much and about their beliefs. And so it's a very vital time in a person's life. And if we can help them step foot on that healing journey now as teens, it makes the rest of their life so much easier. We all know that stepping onto our healing journey as adults, we've had to go through a lot of turmoil before we got to that healing, and had someone held these conversations with us as a teen, or provided resources for our parents and the adults in our lives to help us better transition, it would have made a big difference. So we're really excited about these conversations we're going to be holding. We think that they will be very helpful. And so we hope you'll join us, that we'll get the word out there, and we'll build up the amount of following in the house and for this conversation on Monday. But yeah, thank you everybody who supported us today for this first one in the Inner Creator Conversations house. And Angelique, thanks for hosting and for the work that you do and the passion that you come with. And I look forward to seeing you guys next Monday.
Absolutely. Um, Beautiful space. And I'm grateful that you are on this journey with me, Leah, because as you mentioned, this is important. And it's something that um, I'm grateful for the awareness and the consciousness to be able to navigate. I don't personally have children, but I have worked with various age groups, mostly preteens and teens. And even in my just life, I've attracted young people to me, and we tend to have a better understanding. And I want to extend that understanding between the adults and between the teens, because we're all just human beings in this life, and the more that we're able to connect with each other and see each other eye to eye in a connection way, not in an intimidating way, I really feel like that will help the world become a more peaceful place, to become a more compassionate place. And I'm just grateful that we are here in this room. I will hope to see you next week. And if you are listening to this, definitely leave us your feedback. Reach out to me on Instagram at ADC_life coaching. You can reach out to Leah at Leah Abraham 1111, I believe. And yeah, just let us know how this conversation hit you, or any topics that you want to talk about. But other than that, have a beautiful, wonderful, spectacular, magical day, because you deserve it, because you are worthy, because you can create it. And I'll be closing out the room in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye.